Hey everyone, and welcome to a special bonus edition of Dissecting Dexter. I'm Gareth, your host as always, coming to you from the home studio here in the heart of Yorkshire, England, still bringing you the internet's longest running Dexter podcast. It's February 2026 and we are in the middle of a hiatus in the wider Dexter universe, while here on the podcast we are keeping things going with the Season 4 rewatch. If you heard my recent review of Season 4, Episode 3, Blinded by the Light, you'll have heard a good chunk of my chat with Suzanne Cryer, who plays Tarla Grant, one of Trinity's victims. She's been acting on our screens since the 90s, mostly TV, where she's guest starred in a huge variety of stuff, not least Frasier and Seinfeld. She's had recurring roles in Two Guys, a Girl and a Pizza Place opposite Ryan Reynolds. She's also been a series regular in Silicon Valley. In movies, you'll have seen her in Wag the Dog, 10 Cloverfield Lane, amongst others, although more recently in Pools opposite the upcoming Odessa Zion. Suzanne and I first spoke in January this year when I asked her about her time on Dexter, and she said she'd never talked about the show before, and when I invited her onto the podcast, she was very happy to. So we got together via the medium of the internet and spent a good hour talking about her work on Dexter, about sharing scenes with John Lithgow, but we also got into her wider career and she shared some interesting insights into her acting process. The cherry on top for her was knowing how beloved Dexter Season 4 is, making her even happier to have been a part of it. She had no idea how much fans love it. As always, I appreciate you all for tuning in and listening, and I hope you like what you hear. If you do, please consider supporting me by leaving a nice review or rating wherever you're listening to this. It really does help. If you want to go a step further and help keep the lights on by supporting in the other way, you can by subscribing at www.patreon.com/dissectingdexter, where you can access ad-free versions of the podcast, Patreon exclusive podcasts that I affectionately call shortcuts. You can get personalised video messages from me or even an invitation onto a future episode. There are different reward tiers, so take your ice pick. My thanks go to everyone who supports me there, and extra special thanks to my bone sores, Nick, Phil and Kelly. If you want to get in touch, you can through the Patreon page or just drop me an email. dissectingdexter@gmail.com is the place for that. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook or Blue Sky as Dissecting Dexter, or on Twitter @DissectDexter. Alright, that's the housekeeping out of the way. Let's hear from Suzanne. As promised, here is our conversation in full. The Dexter stuff kicks in after about 20 minutes, but if you heard my review of Blinded by the Light, you'll have heard the majority of that already, but do stick around because there's more after that in the conversation, after the Dexter bit. My thanks to Suzanne for joining me for the chat. She's a very seasoned actor with a wealth of experience, well beyond her appearance in Dexter. She shares a lot about her acting process, as I said, some of which is very personal to her, and I was very grateful that she gave up her time to talk to us for the podcast. I'll just play the conversation now, and we'll be back soon to dissect some more Dexter together. Here we go. Suzanne, thank you very much for joining me today. It's my pleasure. It's lovely to meet you. I have just recently been watching your 2 episodes, and so they're fresh in my mind. But I appreciate it's been a little while since.
It's been a minute. It's been since 2009, so it has been a minute. But time does go. It does move very quickly, and it doesn't seem as long ago as all that to me. And I think because of the nature of the episode, it probably sticks in my head a little bit more than some things I do that are quickly forgotten. I've done a fair number, it seems, although I can't probably list them, of people upset over, mothers upset over one or another things. But this was a particularly strong memory and script. When you do shows, you don't always know whether they're going to have staying power or whether they're going to be significant. Whether they will even be, whether they'll ever see reruns, whether they'll be pulled off the air. I mean, you have no idea. But when I did Dexter, I did know it had such a huge following and it was so tremendously popular that I figured it would actually be, it would stay for a little while. And the fact that I was getting to work with John Lithgow said something too, so.
Yeah, massive. So yes, we'll certainly be digging into Dexter. When I talk to the good people from the Dexter universe, I like to get to know you a little bit and understand where you came from, how you got into the business. So if it's okay, I'd like to sort of explore a little bit of how you came through the business. How you came through into the business. I understand you educationally you went to Yale and studied English literature. Is that where your interest in performing began, or was it earlier than that?
No, I started acting when I was fairly young, and doing kind of community theater. I was right outside New York. We lived in a suburb outside, 30 minutes outside of Manhattan. And I was keenly aware that there were people my age who were doing things on Broadway. And, as I became a teenager, because I wasn't allowed or able to audition for shows in New York. We were very much a suburban family, and my parents had we saw theater, but it wasn't the idea of auditioning for a show in New York. That was not going to happen. But I was so aware that Cynthia Nixon was sort of having the life that I wanted, while I was going to just do little community theater and high school plays. Cynthia was going to I don't know what school she went to in New York. I think she went to Dalton, she was doing two plays simultaneously on Broadway, and it was sort of this fantastical life. I thought, oh my gosh, she's so lucky. But I was doing musical theater and then a lot of high school theater, and I always said to myself, listen, if I get in plays in high school, maybe I'll stick with it. And then I thought, well, if I get in plays freshman year of college, maybe I'll stick with it. And if I get in play, if I kept saying that to myself, always knowing it could not work out. And I chose Yale as an undergraduate because I really wanted to have an academic degree, and I just didn't know what would happen with acting. And so I didn't major in acting, but I did probably 30 plays while I was an undergraduate. And Yale's a terrific place to do that because it has such strong student-driven theater and program-led theater. But I did work a fair amount while I was an undergraduate, and then and enjoyed it, and had always sort of thought of myself more as an academic than an actor, but went into New York and taught school for the first year after college because I just didn't want to be doing nothing. And I had seen a lot of people graduate from college and flounder. So I went and taught public school for a year in New York, and had gotten offered a part that year and wasn't able to do it, and thought to myself, I'm really not resolved on this. So I sort of went back into the trenches of waiting in lines for equity shows, musicals, things I was never going to get in a million years. I was a chunky little kid with a mediocre singing voice, horrendous dancing skills, and, bare competency in acting. I was never going to be getting into a production of Les Mis. So, but I did wait in a lot of lines, got my equity card, did a little bit of TV, and then went back to Yale Drama School. And I think that's where I sort of finally decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for a while. and now I'm almost 60. And so I've been doing it for a while, but now it's sort of the tail end of my career because it's really slowed down out here. And I'm good with that. I've had a lovely career that's paid the bills and gotten me health insurance. And I've worked with some wonderful people.
Yeah. Say that again, having looked through your, sort of acting resume. There's some amazing movies and TV shows that you've been involved with. I hadn't realised that you had a part in Wag the Dog. I mean, that just to typify what you said there about being in some stuff and working with some people. I mean, the cast there is an embarrassment of riches. How was that?
I mean, Wag the Dog I was doing while I was actually doing Arcadia, Tom Stoppard's play at the Taper. So I had come out to Los Angeles from New York after graduating from Yale Drama School to do a play, an incredible Donald Margulies two-hander down at South Coast Rep. And when I finished that, I was cast in Arcadia and at the Mark Taper Forum, part of the Center Theater Group, which is sort of the Broadway of Los Angeles, and with this amazing cast with Kate Burton and a bunch of other people. And while I was in the middle of this, and I was young and auditioning a lot then, I got offered this part in Wag the Dog. And it was a little part, but oh boy, I really wanted to do it. And they don't typically let you do any screen work while you're at the theater. They just can't. Otherwise, they'd have people missing all the time. Mm-hmm. But Gordon Davidson, who ran the CTG at the time, and he's since passed, but he was foundational in Los Angeles theater. He was extremely kind and worked with my agent so that I could do it. And I don't know that I missed any performances. Wag the Dog made it work, and CTG made it work. And I don't think my understudy, if I even had an understudy, ever went on. So it was a tremendous opportunity, and working with Anne Heche and Woody Harrelson and Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman and my friend who I already knew from regional theater was the other guy I was working with all the time, John Michael Higgins, who's an incredible actor, and I had done The Rivals with him, Sheridan's The Rivals at Hartford Stage. But yeah, it was really fun, and it was a very busy time for me. And then I sort of pivoted to TV and have stayed at TV since then. It's what I like. I like TV. I prefer it. It's what I like. And back in the day, when I was doing Two Guys and a Girl, which at the time was sort of perceived as being less than, and Aaron Sorkin had made some rather snarky remarks about the show.
What does he know?
Yeah, exactly. But he did. He sort of made some comments about us being like crappy derivative. And, we weren't Friends, actually. We were doing something very different than Friends. It was actually, they were doing some fairly, really interesting stuff. We would have musical guests and dream sequences, and we did a silent episode. And I think we were always a little bit embarrassed of our show, even though we all sort of liked it. And now I look back on it, and I'm so bloody proud of that show. I mean, Christ, it was Ryan Reynolds and Nathan Fillion, and Rich Riccolo's a fucking genius. And those guys have gone on to do, obviously, I mean, Nathan and Ryan are just powerhouses, and
absolutely,
we had nothing to be embarrassed about on that. And Trailer Howard was amazingly talented, but a lot of us, and she went on to do Monk after that. But the point I'm making is TV is really wonderful. And back when I was doing Two Guys and a Girl, people would constantly come up to me, and my parents' friends from Thingy or people around the city, and go, "Oh, now you're a series regular on a television show. Now you can finally do movies." And I would look at them. I was like, "You're crazy. I have no desire to do movies. I'm doing exactly what I want. I'm going to be able to get married. I'm going to be able to have children, and I'm not going to have to travel all over the place." And I don't. I loved theater, but I did theater for years, and I didn't want to be busy at night. I wanted to be able to be with my children. And I've been really incredibly lucky to earn very good money, almost always be at my children's pickups. And they sort of were blissfully unaware that I was even a working actor for most of their childhoods. So it's been a great career for me, and really happy. I'm just happy.
It sounds like you've been very fortunate to make it work for you, and for it to work around your personal life priorities as well.
Yeah, it did.
And I'm sure there's many who haven't.
No, I mean, I really, I think about people like Amy Brenneman, and other people like Amy who headlined Judging Amy. And I don't know Amy terribly well. She went to Harvard, and she's dear friends with one of my best friends who runs Yale Drama School, James Bundy. But Amy, I'm very aware of what Amy's life was like, because when you're headlining an hour-long drama, you can be working 15, 16 hours. You're carrying the show on your back, and it's absolutely exhausting. It can be much harder than a movie. And I know they eventually had to just add more B and C storylines, because she was always the A storyline, so that she could have a life and raise her children. I've been really lucky, because I do drama, but I'm really always have sort of leaned towards comedy and doing things like that. And doing sitcoms it's a bloody cushy schedule, particularly back in the days of 4-camera. You can be working a few hours a day. The people that are killing themselves are the poor writers who are doing all the work and not making the money. But the writers just kill themselves on 4-camera. But I was very lucky. And even during Silicon Valley, which was not a 4-camera, I was in it so tangentially, even though it was a tangential role in that it was crucial to the plot, but I wasn't ever in the A story. And so, poor Thomas Middleditch would be this donkey carrying the show up a hill, and I would waltz in and shoot for a couple hours and be done. And I'm there every single day to pick up my children from school. So I just really, yes, I've been extremely, extremely lucky. There are downsides to being a woman. Like, you can't age, and really the parts dry up. But the good thing is that I was really able to have a lovely mothering. Being a mom is really important to me, and I do a lot of work in the school. I'm very involved in schools, and it's been great for me. So.
That's great. And you only live once, so it sounds like you've done a good job of balancing the two, your career with your family life, and reaped the rewards personally.
Yeah, listen, had I been offered like leads in giant movies or the carrying a hour-long drama, I'm sure I would have done it, right? I would have. And I think that there's pluses and minuses for any path you take, right? They're just so you sort of the trick is to enjoy what you do end up having. And I feel very grateful. Like, I love my jobs. There's very few things I look back on that I'm like, Jesus, why did I do that show? I mean, there's a couple that I just wouldn't have done again, but very little. By and large, even if I did them and don't love them, it was paying health insurance that year when I spent most of the year pregnant or something like that. Yeah. And most of them, oftentimes things that you don't realize are important lead to another job later, or a place you meet a friend. So, it's saying yes to work tends to be the right choice.
Yeah. Sounds good. I mean, you've obviously focused very much on TV, but you have dabbled a bit in movies. And before we get to Dexter, I've got to mention one, because it in the context of the movie, it made quite an impact for me when I was watching it, and that's 10 Cloverfield Lane.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah. And I actually reached out to J.J. Abrams the other day, because I'm hoping he'll do us an event, but and he is the nicest guy in the world, and so Cloverfield, that was a last minute thing I did. It was a reshoot for them, actually, which I think I'm allowed to talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
But they had originally tried something out, and I'm like, I'm not even sure. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about with that or not, but it was a reshoot. And, so I will tell you, it's probably the hardest day of work I've ever had. And not because of the prosthetics. I've always wanted to do prosthetics. My lifelong dream was to do Star Trek and be like an alien or something. And I was talking to Paul Giamatti the other day, who's another fellow Yaley, because I saw he was doing Star Trek, the new series, and I reached out to him.
Paul's amazing.
I was like, I would give my left arm. I was like, please. He's like, maybe I can bring you on as like a lost wife or something. But I was like, oh, Paul, I was so jealous, because I was like, and I know he had also always wanted to do that. I mean, Paul has a real sense of humor, and he just loves things that are out there, So I think he's having so much fun doing that. But I've always wanted to do prosthetics. The closest I've ever gotten was Cloverfield, because my whole face was like melting off in it.
Yes.
But the reason it was so challenging was it required, and it's funny you bring this up, because it's really going to relate to Dexter. It's going to really, really relate to Dexter. It required stunt performance.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the physical work. Like, I needed to hit my head on the door in a very specific place, in a very specific way, and make it look real. And what I'll basically tell you is it was real. And I hate actors can be whiny. We really can be a bunch of like little Princess and the Pea. Oh, craft service doesn't have any red vines, and where's the coffee? I know we can be that way. But I'll tell you something. I've had 3 experiences involving kind of having to do like stunt work in my life. And Tom Cruise, I am not. Like, Tom Cruise blows me away that he does all that stuff. I can't do basic stuff. So this required, they had kind of pivoted to wanting this to be more of an actor-driven scene, even though it is a stunt scene. And so I was able to do the pretty big emotional life that it required, even though it's sort of invisible on the other side of the door. But it really, really messed up my shoulder and my head just from, just from slamming my body into a door. And I'm sure a stunt person would not have done any damage to themselves. But the only way I can do it is to throw myself at a steel door and wham my head on the glass. So yeah, it was really, really hard. But it's just such a fun thing to be part of that movie. And I think it's such a cool movie. And then I'm actually in the movie after it, too. The Cloverfield.
Paradox.
Yeah. So I'm in both of them because he stuck me on the TV, because JJ was like, we're going to put a little Easter egg, because they like Easter eggs in it. So he's like, we're going to put you in the TV for the fans. So I'm like a newscaster or something like that. I can't remember what I do in the second one. So, in the third one, because it's 1, 2, 3. So it's the third one.
Yeah. So for your bruises, you went through some pretty intense emotions with your performance, with your emotional performance, because you went places. It's a brief scene, but
it was really important to them that it was scary, and I mean, because all of a sudden now you realize, oh yeah, it's the jump scare that is really, oh, it's real. Like because you never know, like, is it all, it's like the silo question. Is there a problem out there, or isn't there a problem out there? And the answer is, yeah, there's a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So it was really important that scene functions, even though it's really, really fast. So, I was just like, I didn't want to let them down, because the director was this incredibly cool young guy, really, really nice. And JJ's involved in it. And I knew it had this amazing cast. Yeah, and Dan, he's amazing, and the lead woman in it, what's her name again?
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yes. Yeah. She is really, really good friends with my dear friend Amanda Crew from Silicon Valley. Okay. So I sort of knew all about this movie already, because God, I get the timeline wrong. I won't even remember. I think I had already been doing Silicon, but I knew about it because I knew. Anyway, so it's a small world anyway, and it was fun to be part of that. When you get to do little things like that, that's fun. That's really fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for talking about that. I just wanted to drop that in there, because I watched it again. Not that long ago, and I'd forgotten it's a turning point of the movie, and you were such a were a pivotal part of that. It was great. All right, let's get to Dexter. Now I was interested when you said you'd never talked about Dexter before in
No.
interview. So
I don't
I'm
think
glad
I
to.
have. If I have, it's been I can't remember. I mean, mostly people always want to talk about Seinfeld, and I'm like, oh my God, it's 100 years ago, and I don't remember anything. But Dexter, no, I've never talked to anybody about it. I don't think before. I mean, obviously, people have asked me about Lithgow before because, he's a king. I mean, he's
Yeah.
not only is he one of our great actors, he's also just this incredibly nice person, and he has a big theater background. So, and I was very, very, lucky. I get to kind of spend 2 days just hanging out with John because it was just us. It was because I did the grocery day where she's delivering groceries, and then the day where he forces her to jump, and we just sort of sat around talking. We had a fair amount of overlap in terms of people we know just because of my work in theater in New York prior to becoming an actor and prior to becoming an actor, prior to becoming a TV actor. So so we had a fair amount of overlap, and I'd seen him do work on stage, and he has so many seminal performances that are kind of unforgettable. He's a powerhouse and kind and funny. His work in The Crown alone. I mean, he's so good. He's so terribly good. He was such a great choice for that role too, because he's big. You always forget he's such a big man, but he doesn't act like a big man. But he's tall. He's so tall. So he has that gentle demeanor, but he's terrifying. It was fun doing the grocery scene with him. Just, it's awful.
Yeah.
I was a brand new mom when I mean, I had a baby already. I had my eldest, but I had brand new twins. So my husband, I think, brought them down to a hotel near me so that I could run out and nurse them because I was still nursing. I nursed them for 100 years. I think I nursed my twins till they were 4. So I was very much still a nursing mom of twins, and I probably still carrying a lot of the weight because it was only, I don't know when we filmed it, but my babies were born in March of 2009. So it wasn't long after that.
No.
Yeah.
So how did the role come about? Was it through someone you knew, or did you just see, did your agent just say, hey, there's
I
this
think
part?
they submitted me for it, and I went in. And I'll tell you, I do not remember the audition, not even a little. That didn't stick with me because it probably was just auditioning with that first scene. But I really don't remember. We audition as actors for so many things. They rarely stick with you. You sort of go in, do it, and leave. There are times that I've been offered things. That doesn't happen so much anymore. Studios and producers are so concerned about making things work now and money that the days of getting offers from my level of actor are over. So even, things like everything now. I'm not saying there aren't people that get offers. I'm sure there are plenty of people who get offers. Julia Roberts is going to get offers, but you're kind of working actor who is a fairly big body of work. I mean, there's no surprise in what I can do and what I can't do. You got to audition. So I auditioned, but no, I don't remember that at all. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. And were you terribly familiar with the show before?
Not
you
at
said
all. No, I knew it was about a serial killer, and I knew Michael Hall because Michael Hall, the man I was dating when I first was in Los Angeles, was running the Mark Taper Forum, and I started dating him after he directed me in Arcadia, and he was directing a production of, I hope I don't get this wrong because my memory is like a sieve, of The Dumbwaiter, and Michael Hall. It was one of the 2 shows he did at the Taper. Maybe it wasn't The Dumbwaiter. It might have been the other one, but one of them, Michael Hall was in. And it was like a bunch of older actors and then this young, good-looking guy. And, he wasn't a big TV actor at that point, but I was very familiar with who he was because Robert Egan, the guy that I'd been dating, was like, oh, he's incredible. And I'm so glad that he's doing this show. And he was really happy about it. It wasn't The Dumbwaiter. It was something different. Skylight or something, maybe Skylight with Lila Robbins and Michael Hall. It's all a blur for me. But the point is, I knew him as a theater actor. So we had come from sort of this. So I was aware of Michael and we had met and stuff like that at cast parties and etc. But in any case, but I didn't know the show. No.
Yeah. So when you auditioned, did they give you a background for the character or what the part involved?
No,
or was that more when you got
remember.
the part?
And no, I really, there's scripts are so heavily protected on these shows, particularly shows like that there's a lot of rabid fans who want to know what's happening. So when you're going in for guest stars, you don't read the script. So I'm not even sure I knew she was murdered. I don't know that I knew anything about it. But yeah, I don't think I knew anything about it. And then when I realized what it was, I was like, wow, and then, I think I sort of remember my agent saying, you're probably going to want to do this because it's with John Lithgow. That I remember. And so that would have made me say, oh, this is a guest star, because it wasn't a series regular, but you're going to want to do it. There were other compelling reasons to want to do it, though, because the interesting thing is, even though it was really great. This was one of those other kismet things as a mom of new twins, because it was such a small part, a crucial part, but a small part, because it really is like the jump scene and the grocery scene, and over 2 days of filming. So I didn't have to be there for weeks, but I got my normal paycheck and could nurse the twins really easily and take care of them. Didn't have to be away from them for a long time. And then the amazing thing is, and I didn't know anything about this because I had never done this before, but since my character died in it, my dead body that had a picture of me was on the board for them solving crimes. So I got money for every single time I showed my dead body. So that stupid still I took of like myself lying on the ground. The residuals from Dexter were some of the best residuals. we're not talking about like $100,000, but I'm just saying like, thousands of dollars on a year when I'm like, I thought that show was over. And all of a sudden you got another $6,000 and you're like, wow, I love you, Dexter. Like I have loved Dexter forever now, because I'm like, that show is really, really, really great in terms of residuals. So because of all those episodes that I showed up in. So, it's really nice.
I'm gonna, now you've said that, when I watch Dexter from now on and I see pictures of some of the victims we've encountered earlier in the season on their investigation board, I'm gonna have that thought and tip my hat to the actors. Thinking, thanks very much. That's another one. Yeah,
every time.
Yeah, brilliant. So obviously working with John Lithgow was a great draw for you. Were you nervous about having to share scenes with him? Obviously he's got presence, hasn't he? He's got a great presence and gravitas.
No, I wasn't. I've worked with a lot of terrific actors, and you certainly don't want to be bad, but I don't think I'm more nervous. I was more nervous working with Odessa Zion on the movie Pools that I did recently, and I'll tell you why. I don't compare myself to John Lithgow in any way, but he and I have a very similar training. We have a very similar background. I'm not going to forget my lines or step on the wrong place, and I'm able to do a character and do my work. So, and they had hired me, and when they hired you, that means they want you to do what you're doing. When I showed up to do this movie that I did, like a little while ago, and it's lately been all over the place, Pools. I haven't seen it, but it was a movie with Odessa, who's all over the place now. Odessa's just like boomed because of the ping pong movie that she does with Chalamet. I showed up on set and I met this young lady. people didn't know who Odessa was at that point, or not particularly, right? She hadn't done a ton of stuff. I mean, some people did, but I certainly didn't know who she was. And she's like she's like this little spirit from the underworld with her like big crazy hair. She's got like chocolate all over her fingers and she's barefoot and she's running around hugging everyone. She's just like this little angel, like street urchin, like gorgeous. She's like a Vogue model street urchin, right? She's just like running around hugging people and no makeup, zero, I met her and I was like, Suzanne, you go in there and you start doing Yale drama school with her. You're going to seem fake because she's really, really real. She's just living in the moment. John Lithgow's, he's a trained Shakespeare actor. So I know when I'm doing a scene, he and I are going to kind of approach things sort of the same way. I'm not as good as he is, but we have the same toolkit. His is just a better toolkit. But Odessa is inhabiting a very new, very different generation. And you don't think to yourself, and I've heard of actors, I've heard of stupid actors that like work with young people now and are like, oh, they're not doing it right. No. The industry's changed. We have to change. It's a new way of acting. It's much more, there's more of a verisimilitude in some ways. And you've got to keep things. But it was tricky for me on that. I mean, I know we're supposed to be talking about Dexter, but it was tricky for me on Pools because I was playing like a comic, very heightened role in a movie with a lot of real acting. And so I was trying to do what the director needed me to do, which was to be the comic foil, but still inhabit a scene with a young lady who's completely fresh-faced gorgeousness, living in the moment. John Lithgow, I didn't have any of those worries. I was just doing a normal acting scene.
Yeah. That's interesting to compare. I mean, see very different styles, and as an actor, I guess you have to, certainly as an experienced actor, you have to know when to adjust how you approach a scene, and where to pitch yourself, where to pitch your performance in accordance with who you're opposite.
Well, and with what the show is, so like you can really screw up if you don't watch at least a little bit of the show before you audition or show up for work, because there's a really, really big difference between the style of acting on Two Guys and a Girl and Dexter. It's very, very different style of acting. I've been really, really lucky that I've gotten to do both kinds of acting because I really like doing hour-long stuff. I really like doing serious stuff. I've done it professionally in plays, but I also like doing very broad kind of musical theater acting. And I've gotten to do both, but you better know what you're doing because, and I've done it, I've screwed up before. I've like given auditions and later been like, oh no, that audition I sent in, now I know why I didn't book it. That show is nothing like what I thought it was. I should have been much more relaxed and in the moment. It wasn't heightened. I thought it was heightened, but it wasn't.
Yeah. So we first in Dexter we first see your character Tarla, John Lithgow, Trinity is stalking her, but your interaction with him begins really in the second time we meet you, which is, as you mentioned, the night scene where he's walking his dog Checkers,
right?
Except it's not his dog, of course, it's a prop. And you're so sweet and trusting and friendly and natural, and obviously as viewers we know he's up to no good, and thinking, oh God, the future's not looking very good, and then
not looking good for poor Tarla.
Not looking good at all, and then the next time we see you is where, as you say, he takes you into the building and makes you jump. And I think when we were messaging beforehand, I said I'd forgotten how intense it was, that scene, and it's disturbing.
Yeah, it's really it's awful.
It really is
awful. Yeah, he's a jerk. That was one of the reasons I wanted to do the part. There were two reasons I wanted to do the part. One, Lithgow and the show. Like I knew it was a prestige show. I like doing quality shows. I mean, everybody does. And And the second reason was I play really tough characters. I often play mean characters. You know, I have smart characters. And this character, she was so nice. And I was like, I can be nice. Why do I never get to be somebody nice? So it was really fun for me to get to be this nice lady who's going to get squashed like a bug. Yeah, it was really, the other thing is most of the time when you're doing the kind of thing we were doing in Dexter, it's all fake, right? I mean, it's all green screen or obviously there's stunt acting but we were really way up high in a warehouse. We were like on the 6th or 7th floor of some warehouse in the middle of the night down near, I guess it was near Long Beach or something. I remember it was down south of LA. And it was like a creepy warehouse. It wasn't like, and it does help you become a little bit more in the moment when the environment is actually real. Like we were in the place he would actually take me. We weren't on a stage. And I was hooked onto a balcony 6 floors up. I was standing over the balcony. And obviously, though, I didn't do the jump. And as I said to you, I don't remember watching it. I don't watch a lot of stuff that I do. It's not really productive for me. And unless I am on the show, like I watched all of Silicon because I was already a huge Silicon fan. And so I watched it. I was very much like, but a lot of times I don't watch things. But I remember I wanted to see The Fall. So I know I saw The Fall. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not my hand, because they had used the stunt double's hands to get the letting go. And I just knew because she had a lot of hair on her arms. And I just don't. I'm very fine hair and I have like no hair. And so I was like, those aren't my hands. I think they like tried to get her nails to match mine, but that was not my arms. Those were not my hands. I was like, whoever that is has nice thick head of hair, and that's not me. But the funny thing is, the reason I said it was pertinent talking about Cloverfield and doing stunt work is it was really high up. But when you saw what the girl did, and I wish I could tell you the name of the stunt double, but I don't know what her name is. And they're very talented, the people that do this, obviously.
Yes.
I thought I could do that. Like they should just have me lean back and fall. And I could do that. There's a big cushiony thing down there and whatever. And and you know what? Tom Cruise could do that because he can do that. And I'll tell you what, I cannot do that. And I know that now because of Cloverfield, where I literally just was like supposed to like, bang I couldn't do it at all and hurt myself and thought it was going to be not a problem. And then a very funny thing that happened to me, I did this show, this ridiculous Disney show. I don't even remember what the name of it was. And I don't remember what it was about. I don't remember anything about it except for that I was playing like a spy in it or something. And Steve Valentine was in it. And, it was like a bunch of guys with like a kid. I wish I could tell you what the name of the show is. I have no idea. Anyway, and it was very broad acting, like the broadest acting you could do. Like I remember when I was doing the audition for it, I was acting so over the top on this audition. And they said, can you do it louder? I started laughing. I was like, don't you have mics on set? It's a TV show. When do you have to do things louder? But in any case, I did this show on Disney, and at one point, like all these like young kid shows, I had to do a pratfall where my character gets bopped on the head or scared or I don't know what the heck happens, and she has to just fall out of frame. So you just have to fall out of frame. Very simple. And so they said, we'd like you to go work with the stunt coordinator. There's going to be a big cushion behind you, but we'd like you to go work with the stunt coordinator. And I was like, oh, for F's sake, I do not need to work with a stupid stunt coordinator just to fall backwards 2 feet. I'm like 43 years old. I can fall backwards. I'm in good shape. This is not a problem.
Yeah.
So I went over to the stunt coordinator, and they're always, they're very officious. They really tell you what you got to do. They're bossing you around, and they're like, bend your knee, turn your thing. And I'm like, oh, I had no respect. I had no respect for working with the stunt coordinator. And I leaned back to fall into the thing, and I threw my back out. I barely could get up. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't fall backwards. I don't know how to do it. Like, it's not like these little things, and it's not a little thing. Like, you need to know how to do these things, and you need to do them well, because my little fragile body just gets twisted and fucked up really easily. So, I couldn't even fall like this. I could never do what the stunt does, falling 6 floors onto a pillow. Never in a million years. But they make it look like it's a big nothing when they do it. It looks so easy. So
it's their day job, isn't it? It's what they do.
It's their day job. So I was all bolted in. And every time I was doing stuff with John up on the balcony, and we were doing our scene, and we did all the different angles and all the different stuff and walking over, I can't really remember. And then they took me out and they put her in, and I stood there, I remember at the beginning, to make sure she had the same positions on the rails that I did, whatever. And I watched her do it. It was fascinating.
Yeah. But it was incredibly intense scene, and your performance was intense. And as a parent, I found myself empathizing, and you can't help but think, what would I do? I mean,
what would I do? Yeah,
a no-win situation there.
I mean, you think to yourself, well, that was a dumb decision. She shouldn't have done it. But I think in the moment, you don't know what else to do, and he's going to kill you anyway, right?
Yeah.
So the question of whether you jump or whether he does something worse, and then he's going to kill your family. It was horrible. Yeah, and it's horrible.
And maybe more so for you, given that you had 2 newborns.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I never think about my own stuff when I'm doing. I'm not, that's distracting for me. Like, that's not acting, that's personalizing stuff. And I don't personalize stuff. Like, I personalize the stuff in that I know what the feeling of being in love is, and therefore when I'm doing a scene with person X, I know what the feeling of being in love is, and I put it on that person. But I don't think about another person that I've been in love with, because then you're not in the scene anymore. So I know what being a parent is. I know what having really bad things happen to me is, because I've had my slew of experiences. And so therefore I know as a mom, but I'm not thinking about, like, I'm thinking about Tarla and Tarla's family and her specific children. I'm not thinking about, like, it doesn't make me cry more or more scared to think about my children. It actually really takes me out of it. I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's acting for people that don't know how to act. Like, think about your dead grandma to get you to cry. You're not in the scene anymore. Like, I believe I'm who I am when I'm in the scene, and then it's immediately done. But like, I'm living in that person pretty specifically.
Thank you. That's a really interesting insight into the acting process there, and that's of course why you're an actor and I'm not.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, and there may be people that use their personal lives more, but at Yale, they very much, at the drama school, they very much are like, that is not, that kind of like memory acting is not, it's only useful insofar as creating, it's only useful insofar as you're, you know what the shape of something is. So like, as an example, I've been through something pretty bad in my life. So I know what the shape of really, really bad trauma is. Like, I know what that shape is because my body's been through it. I've I've grieved. I know what that shape is of going through immense trauma. I have used that shape to do, like, I did an audition for something that had a situation in it similar. Like my agents were actually like nervous to have me do the audition because they thought it's too similar to something she's been through. And I said, no, it's fine. It's totally fine. And I said, and I can do this for them better than anybody else can because I know exactly what this looks like. So I did it for them. And I didn't get the part.
Right.
And I know there was nobody better than me at it. There it wasn't. I know that because I did it. I did it for them. But we actually got feedback from the casting director, and it didn't bother me that I didn't get it, but it was perplexing to me. And the feedback was the casting director told spoke to my manager and said, that is the best audition I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it, but it's too much. Okay. It's too real. So sometimes people don't there's a lot of different ways to go through trauma, right? You could be Meryl Streep doing the dingo ate my baby and have no affect, or you could be somebody who's convulsing on the floor, sobbing. Like, there's a million ways to show grief or despair or whatever it is. And, it's unfortunate to me that the casting director didn't say, okay, I'm going to stop you there. Can you do the scene again? Do half of that, make her less? Because I could have. I made a choice to duplicate the grief, the trauma. I mean, it was strategic. I wasn't thinking about my stuff. I was thinking about the shape of the grief, though, because I'm a technician. So but to them, because they know me, they were like, oh, it's too raw. And I was like, no, I wasn't living a reality here, but I was showing you what it is. And I could have taken a note and done half the icing on top of the cupcake, but they didn't want that. So I think it's useful, but you have to remember, one lived experience doesn't equal everybody's lived experience. And like, for that character, they didn't want that, whether it was because it didn't fit the tone of the show or whether they didn't think that was the person or whatever it was, they had valid reasons. And it's always important to remember that, there's 1,000 ways of being mean. There's 1,000 ways of being sad,
Yeah. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. It feels almost trite to go back to Dexter. Now we've been there.
Oh, no, I mean, but it's pertinent because it's like an upsetting scene, and you could
really
play
is.
Tarla. You could play Tarla a lot of different ways, and some of them maybe would have been better, some worse. I mean, there's a lot you could do it a lot of different ways, but whatever the way I was doing it was the way the producers on that show wanted it to be. And if they didn't like what I was doing, they would have replaced me, because that's what producers will do, right? Yeah. So I think it's always important for actors to remember that it's not that you were bad or it's not, or maybe you were. Some people are probably bad, but it's also that they're like, in this particular scene, we're looking for this. And Suzanne in this case was the right person for that. And another day, Suzanne was not, we wanted Joanna and doing that, and usually if I see something I didn't get, I go, oh, that's what they wanted. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think only once in my life have I ever seen something and thought, oh, I was robbed. I was absolutely robbed of something that I should have gotten. Only once. And that's in an entire career of auditions. I've only felt that way once. And the time it happened, it was because it was given to a producer's partner. And she just didn't have the equipment. And it was so obviously she was unprepared for it. And I was like, well, that was just, what am I going to do? Yeah. So, that can happen. That can happen. Yes. And it doesn't happen as much as you think. Usually I'm like, oh, yeah, that girl was great or different than me. Or no, I really rarely feel sour grapes.
That's good. So your concluding scene in Dexter was playing a dead body.
Yeah.
So we see the inglorious aftermath of the terrible events of the night before. And as I was watching it, I thought, I wonder how long they made you lie there. Did they give you regular breaks?
Yeah, I did have a lot of breaks, and I was there. I lay for a fair amount of time, and Michael was really sweet. We were chatting and stuff like that. And I think, they're very respectful to actors' time and comfort. I mean, they really are, probably more than they need to be. But the union has a lot of rules about stuff. But it was, I don't remember it as being particularly hellish. And as we discussed before, lying there as that dead body got me residuals. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So it was actually very lucky that I was face up, and very lucky that, because otherwise it could have been, it's only when they're using my likeness and image that I'm going to get, So if they had me fall on my face, they wouldn't have they could have used anybody. And I don't think I would have gotten the residuals.
Yeah. What a great decision they made that night when they had you fall in that way.
It's funny, when you're working on like a sitcom, any show, and there's all these big teams of writers. The teams have gotten smaller as they've cut so much back on writers, which is a whole different story. But like you'll do a show, and then one of the writers will come up to you and say like, I came up with your part. And you think, at the beginning, I thought they were so excited because they were just letting me know, like, we're so happy you're here, you're good, and I came up with your part. The reason they're so excited is when you're allowed to add a part and the part stays, the writers are getting, every time that character's mentioned, every time that character comes back, even if they didn't write the episode, they
Ka-ching.
own that character. Ka-ching. So writers will actually like try and add characters, or at least they used to back in the day. I mean, things may have changed by now, but they used to try and add characters. No, you're not going to add a character. You know what I mean?
Nice
but they would
try.
try and add a character because it would be like, it would outlive many of them on the show.
Yeah.
So it's the same for actors. Like we get the dead body, they get I added, Denise to this show, and you're like, yeah, they love it. Every time you come back, they're like, you're here again. I'm gonna get money. So I was like, that's why they're so. I thought that girl was excited to see me because she thinks I'm a good actor. No, she's just excited that I'm coming back on this show because she invited, whoever who added my character in All Rise. They're like, yes, she keeps coming back. They're
You're
happy.
helping pay for their second house.
Exactly. I don't know that it does as much as all that for them, but at least it's something. So
it helps. Yeah.
So
although Tarla wasn't around for all that long in the show, but by playing her, you are forever a part of one of the most beloved seasons of Dexter. Because season 4 is, you ask Dexter fans to rank their favorite Dexter seasons. Season 4 is either at the top or second or right up there.
That's nice to hear. Well, I guess
really
because
is.
of that's probably much to do with John Lithgow. You get John Lithgow, you're going to get a home run. That's really nice to hear. And I didn't know that because I don't watch the show. And my husband, I used to watch like more scary TV, like at the beginning of my marriage. And my husband is like, why are you doing this to yourself at night? Like, why are you watching Criminal Minds? And I've done Criminal Minds. Like I had a lot of fun doing Criminal Minds. But he's like, why do you do that? It's been a long day. Life's hard enough. And I was like, no, but it's like cathartic or something. And I stopped. I don't watch any of that stuff anymore. So I don't watch stuff where women are being hurt or cut up or put in cages or bleeding or dying. And I don't think Dexter's not exploitative that way. That I actually do think kind of Criminal Minds is a little bit that way. It's a lot of women in cages and being chopped up. And you know who watches that stuff? Women. Men don't watch that stuff. Women watch stuff. Women watch. I think we're like resolving our anxiety about how dangerous it is to be in the world, probably. I think Dexter's really, really smart. I mean, obviously Criminal Minds is really smart too, but it's just, it wears on you, the amount of women and children who are being harmed because we're vulnerable. So people, so we're good victims in a TV show. But I had sort of stopped my serial killer watching since then. But if I were going to watch one, it would be that. And he's such a, he's such a tremendous actor too.
He's amazing. And when you have him facing off against John Lithgow,
yeah,
you can see why season 4 was on the money.
You make me want to sort of watch it and see that
Yeah.
art. I know people love that show and they love him, and I think I watched like the pilot and maybe the first episode and I thought it was brilliant. I just didn't do it. So I was like, I checked in with it. So
yeah, it's worth sticking with because it finds its groove.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about how some shows can be a bit exploitative. I don't think Dexter ever has been, although it's got its feet planted in the horror genre. It's not an overly horrific show, and more often than not we see the aftermath of the violence rather than the violence itself. Of course we do see things happen, and sometimes it is a bit gory, but more often than not it's the aftermath, and you see Dexter going to the crime scenes sort of post-mortem, and even when he kills his victims, we know what he does with the bodies, but the show doesn't linger on it, and perhaps another show would and really go for the gruesome factor. But
no, Dexter, I always thought it was supposed to be smart TV. That was sort of my impression of that show. So and it's fun to be, it's fun when you're a part of something. It's fun for me that I was part of Frasier. It's fun having done Seinfeld. It's fun being on Dexter. It's fun, that's like the people that did, I was good friends with Lance Reddick, and I was like, wow. And then he ended up doing Percy Jackson, which I did the first season, an episode of Percy Jackson. But I like when you get to do The Wire, or when you're part of The Sopranos, right? When you get to be part of a show that is, I feel very much that way about Silicon Valley. It's not as watched anymore, but I think it was one of the best sitcoms ever written by two of the smartest people in this staff of the people that wrote on Silicon Valley are all, MIT and Stanford, and it's you can like it or not like it, but you can't dispute that it's some of the best comedy writing ever. And we should have won Emmys. But unfortunately, the way they changed kind of the nominations and who we were up against, we weren't up against things that were actually straight comedies all the time. But we were doing this really intellectual level comedy with a tremendous cast of just incredibly Kumail and Martin and Thomas and TJ and and Zach, Jesus, and just tremendous people. But so when you feel that way, when you can say to people, I was part of that and it's good, you know what I mean? You don't need to like it or not like it, but I know it's good. It's nice. You feel like, that's, it makes you feel proud. So I'm super proud to have gotten to do Dexter. And obviously it's lovely to have gotten to work with John Lithgow. I saw him years later when I was at the Emmys for Silicon Valley. And we were all sitting there and he was down in the front because he had been doing The Crown. And he was just, his Churchill, he was phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal, I thought. I mean, I thought his Churchill was just so moving and funny and interesting and just great. Anyway, and it had been years since I did Dexter, and he saw me and right away knew who I was, and right away started complimenting me on Silicon Valley, so much so that I got back to my seat and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even say anything about The Crown. And I was like it was just like crazy. And he was the big star there. But I'm just saying, he's a tremendously lovely person. Just so it's an honor to have gotten to work with him even for a couple days, and just to have spent some time with him. You don't get, fame. There's a difference between famous. I don't care about famous. He's special. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a very big difference. I met a lot of famous people. I don't give a or whatever. But he's special. I mean, he can do a one-man show at the Taper, and that man is special. He's a special actor. He can fill up a theater by himself. Like he's just a powerhouse. So
he's a draw, definitely.
yeah, he is.
And he says he's so lovely in person, and yet,
Yeah.
boy, can he turn it on screen.
Yeah.
I've just
Oh.
watched recently, I don't know if you've seen it, it's called The Rule of Jenny Penn. He did
No.
with Jeffrey Rush.
Well,
It's
that must have
an
been tremendous
Australian
for the two
movie,
of them.
and it's, oh yeah, what a double header that is. But
Yeah.
he plays, I think he channels a little bit of Trinity in his performance, because he's
Yeah.
a despicable man in that movie, and he's in an old people's home, and he's doing awful things to some of the other residents and gaslighting them. And
I should
it's
see
just a
it.
performance of just, it's just John Lithgow at his best.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think everything he does, like you can't, like, I think about him in and the Shirley MacLaine and Deborah Winger, he has so many performances to me that, where he's like having the conversation with her when he's in the why am I losing my mind here? But where he's having the affair with Winger, and and having these conversations like with his dryer. There's so many, like, and 2010, like when do you remember that? Did you see that movie? Have you seen him in it when he's walking out into space and he's scared?
In 2010.
Yeah, isn't it in 2010? Isn't that when he does it? He has to
Um,
go out into space, and he like is in an astronaut suit and he has to walk out into space. I mean, I hope I'm remembering.
it may be a gap in my own movie watching.
Anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just like all these little performances of his that I just find, like over time. I mean, I have a horrendous memory. I'm literally like just a giant blurry, like I feel like I've been drunk my whole life. Like I can't remember anything. But yeah, he's special, and working with him is it's special. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very appreciative to the producers of Dexter, not only for the residuals, but for giving me the opportunity to be part of a really great show.
Yeah.
And that has like such a dedicated fan base that obviously you're catering to, and also to get to work with Lithgow and Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael's great, but I didn't really work with Michael. I only worked with John.
Yeah.
Only when I was dead. Working with Michael dead was not really working with Michael.
That counts. You're on screen.
Really?
On screen together.
My death work was.
You're acting as a corpse. It still counts.
Of course.
So what's next for you? What have you got in the pipeline?
So, I mean, I'll be really honest. It's really slow. The industry has changed a lot. I don't know what's going on. I have friends leaving LA, losing houses, stuff like that. It's not that dire for me because, I've worked so consistently and my husband's employed and it's fine. But, I have 2 movies that are out right now, Pools and a trans movie that I did called She's the He, that's getting a lot of, like, it's a trans comedy movie. But I did those like a while ago, and it's been incredibly quiet. The last series I did was with Bob Odenkirk in Canada, and I loved it so much. It's one of my favorite shows that I've ever done. It was called Lucky Hank, and it was with Mireille Enos and Diedrich Bader and Cedric Yarbrough. Just great people, and it just didn't. It was too academic. It just didn't get any traction, and the strike also just really did in a lot of this. The actor strike was I have very mixed feelings about it. It was complicated what it did. I'm not sure we gained as much as we might have lost, but different people have different feelings about it. And I respect that. And I voted to endorse it. I'll always support my union, but things have changed. There have been market corrections. There's a change in a lot of things. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm mostly spending my time doing a lot of advocacy work for the public school system in Los Angeles. So I kind of fill my days with doing a lot of work on that, because I'm a very big believer in public education and having a robust, diverse, gifted program to serve the needs of our big, diverse population in Los Angeles. So I do a lot of work on that, and parent my kids. And if good things come along to work on, I'll do them. And I'll be excited to do them. And if they don't, I'd rather do nothing.
Yeah.
I've got nothing. I'd rather do other things. I want to do things like Dexter and Lucky Hank and Silicon Valley. I like doing things like that. But earning health insurance is important. As you know,
the bills don't pay themselves.
In America, it is really important that we have health insurance.
Yeah. Well, Suzanne, it's been lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for giving up
to meet you too, and I
some of your
appreciate you
time.
making me think about something that I haven't thought about in a while. So,
and thank you for your work on Dexter. And I wish you good health and every happiness and success for the future.
Yeah, I mean I'm a little bit inspired to watch some of it now. I don't want to have nightmares, but
let me know when you do.
I don't want to have nightmares, but I am curious. Particularly about season 4. I've heard it's lovely. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.